Hi, I'm Sophie Matsuda and I'm from Spearfish High School. 2009 was arguably one of the most significant years in history. The year the world discovered Justin Bieber. Every girl I can remember knew his name, loved his songs, and found him particularly good looking. Except for me, I had no idea who Justin Bieber was. That all changed very quickly when I entered kindergarten and heard of him from a friend who was absolutely in love with him. Having no idea who he was, of course, I asked my parents. Being the somewhat protective parents that they are, they had a strong opinion on him and quickly deterred me from any interest I may have had in him by simply telling me that he's not a great person and I don't need to know any more than that. This little information sparked a hatred in me for Justin Bieber. Even though I really didn't know who he was or what he's done, knowing my parents didn't have a positive view towards him was enough for me. Of course, I wasn't the only one who hated him. He was the 5th most hated man in the US in 2016. But was my hatred called for? Probably not. In today's world, it has become so easy for us to hate pretty much anything, whether that be Justin Bieber, pineapple on pizza, or maybe even me. I bet I could get you to hate me pretty easily. After all, I was born and raised in Southern California. I lived in Hawaii for 4 years before moving here, and I don't think pineapple on pizza is all that bad. It's okay if you hate me now. I'll understand. But, as trite as it sounds, there is so much hate in this world, and it only causes harm to ourselves and those around us. So today, we're first going to examine why we love to hate. Next, we'll recognize how hate hurts others and ourselves. And finally, we'll consider how we can make the world a less hateful place. So, what is it about pineapple on pizza that people hate so much? Is it the pineapple itself? Maybe the idea of trying something new? It's likely just because people love to hate in general. Initially, it almost doesn't make sense. We often consider feelings of anger or hatred to be negative emotions. So why would we want to experience something we associate with negativity? Dr. Mike Brooks explores this in his article from Psychology Today titled, "Why Do We Love to Hate?" He establishes that negative emotions are not inherently bad and have evolved to protect us. But the enemies and threats of today look different than they were for our ancestors. Rather than an individual or a group of people, we may consider issues such as healthcare reform or taxation levels to be threats. But these wouldn't be comprehensible to people thousands of years ago. He states that, quote, "Yet arguments over such issues have contributed to the rise in political sectarianism and negative partisanship. At this point, substantive disagreements over issues take a backseat to us versus them sentiments," end quote. Basically, due to our evolutionary mismatch, imperative discussions surrounding critical issues are forgotten in our zeal against someone on the opposing side. Other than evolutionary explanations, Vanessa Van Edwards' article, "Why Do We Hate? The Science Behind Why People Love to Hate," explores 4 reasons that people hate others. First, people want a scapegoat. Whatever it is we're dealing with, it can feel better to direct our negative energy into blaming someone else, rather than to consider how we may be affecting our own problems. Second, people are lonely and searching for connections. Even if these connections are hateful, it can be easier to connect through putting others down and finding others to agree, rather than to prove to be an interesting person. Third, people are afraid of the unknown. If a new person comes into an existing group, the existing group may bond by being defensive against the outsider. Finally, their insecurities get the best of them. We are constantly comparing ourselves to those around us, and if we decide that another person is better, we project our anxiety and speak out against the person. This is particularly relevant considering the effect social media is known to have on a person's self-esteem. A Huffington Post poll reported that 60% of people using social media state that it has negatively impacted their self-esteem, while 51% state that social media has made them more self-conscious about their appearance. This ties back to Dr. Brooks' point about evolutionary mismatch. How many likes an Instagram post got isn't something our ancestors would really be concerned with. Now that we've established the factors that drive us to hate, let's recognize how hate hurts others and ourselves. Especially if prolonged, hatred can be turned outward and motivate dangerous and violent actions. Of course, not everyone deals with these feelings the same way, but there have been individuals who express their hatred and hurt many others in the process. For example, the gunman in the shooting at the LA Fitness gym in Pennsylvania was driven by his hatred of women and their seeming rejection of him. On a less extreme level, we may express our hatred through cruel words that we don't even mean half the time. While it may feel good to hurt someone who we believe deserves it, we are really only hurting ourselves. With the internet and social media, we are constantly exposed to people and information that upsets us. This enables us to regularly linger in our negative feelings, which puts us in a chronic state of stress. This in turn causes psychological problems, such as anxiety and depression, as well as physical issues, such as gastrointestinal issues, a weaker immune system, heart disease, and inflammation. But don't negative emotions serve a purpose? And if so, why would they have such harmful effects? Once again, this ties back to Dr. Brooks's point about evolutionary mismatch. Our negative emotions have evolved to protect us, but we experience our threats in a way that our ancestors didn't. We are constantly exposed to things we may consider threats in a way that our ancestors never were. While our negative emotions have evolved to protect us, we are not meant to be experiencing them for an extended period of time, and this is what harms us. Now that we've established the factors that drive us to hate and recognize the damage it does, let's consider how we can make the world a less hateful place. We've all heard the phrase, hate's a strong word, and it sounds cliche, but it's also entirely true. We have overused the word hate to the point that we are desensitized to its true meaning, which dictionary.com defines as to dislike intensely or passionately, feel extreme aversion for or extreme hostility toward. Take note of the words intensely, passionately, and extreme. Hate is a strong word by its own definition. So why have we come to toss it around like it's nothing? The best explanation is, we have shortened our phrases for use of texting and social media. Rather than explaining why we feel negatively towards something, we simply state that we hate it. Albert Einstein once said, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." So by changing our thinking surrounding the word, we can recognize that hate is a strong word and consider applying other words or phrases that will more accurately describe how we're feeling, rather than to say we have an extreme aversion for everything. Additionally, taking a break from social media, or avoiding it entirely, can help us to refocus on the real world instead of unattainable ideals and improve our self-esteem. When we do start to think those negative thoughts, try to slow down and relax a bit. Then consciously challenge these thoughts and replace them with calmer, more rational ones. If necessary, apply a distraction strategy to redirect the mind to something more positive. This could be any simple, enjoyable activity, like going on a walk or watching a movie. Today, we first examined why we love to hate. Next, we recognized how and why hate hurts others and ourselves. And finally, we considered a few ways we can decrease the amount of hate we see in the world. Looking at the evolution behind our emotions and the social circumstances that often encourage us to be more negative can explain why we observe so much hate. And though necessary, the way we experience hate in the modern world can cause serious psychological and physical damage to ourselves and those around us. So by changing our thinking surrounding the word, recognizing how our own actions may be contributing to our own feelings of hate, and not letting our hateful emotions overtake us, we can limit the amount of hate we feel and encourage a more positive world. So next time you catch yourself about to say that you hate Justin Bieber, or you feel that negative emotion developing, consider how you're actually feeling and why you're feeling that way. Either you won't be genuinely feeling hatred, or you can adjust your response to be a more positive influence on yourself and others. Thank you.
Very nice.